Hey friends, welcome to your week 21 foundations class. This is going to be a well-rounded class, a little bit of everything: breathing, posture, core, pelvic floor, hip muscles, functional things. You will need some props today. I would have kind of a bigger squishier ball. This is just a kid's toy, and another size ball, probably small and soft for some pelvic floor release work, and then a block or something firm. If you don't have a block, a bolster would suffice. And a bolster if you have one, or a pillow, something soft that can elevate up. But as always, just use what you have. You can roll up blankets, pillows, etc. Okay, we are gonna get started with our release work for our pelvic floor. If you have tight hamstrings, you could do this seated on a chair, and that'll take some tension out of the back of the legs. What we're gonna work on is releasing these muscles of the pelvic floor from the outside in. Obviously, there's a whole nother world of internal muscle pelvic floor release with a certified PT. That is great for whoever needs that. I would highly recommend it. I've never experienced it, but I have heard success stories from that, so definitely know that that's a resource. But today we're just gonna do the outside in. And the muscles we're going for can be found, so if you're sitting, find your sit bones. So wiggle side to side, feel your left and right sit bone. That's right here. And the muscles we're going for are on the inside of that, but between the sit bones and your openings. So your urethra, vagina, and rectum, or anus. So we're just between the middle, the openings, and the sit bones, all along here. If you have a lot of tension here, use a softer ball, or even a foam roller, or even a pillow, something really gentle. It's nice to have different kind of textures and varieties of balls, because as you might find some release of tension, you could do a firmer surface. You could use tennis ball as well. I have this fancy one, but find what you have and then kind of go from there, adjust from there based on the size that serves you and the density and hardness of it. Okay, so this is where if you need, you can sit in a chair if this feels like a lot for your hamstrings. We're gonna lean onto our left hip and then bring that ball right on the inside of your sit bone. Use your hands to prop you up as much as you need. So they're kind of your brakes / gas pedal. The more weight you put through your arms, the less intense it's gonna be on your pelvic floor. Okay, so we're here, and we're taking some deep breaths down into that area. If you ever notice anywhere that is super tense, back off a little bit. Just like any other massage, if someone is massaging your traps and you're extremely tender and sensitive there, and they go very hard, it's going to defeat the purpose. So kind of soften, maybe go in the area around it, and then come back to that spot. So we can point and flex our toes, kind of wiggling forward and back. We could also just do a pelvic tilt. So bringing our belly button up towards our sternum and then down towards our thighs, all the while maintaining those good breaths. And then we could rock left and right. And as we do this, maybe you shift the ball a little bit forward, closer towards the front openings. Find a spot there and breathe. And then shift a little bit to the back, towards the back openings. Find something that feels interesting, like you could work on it. And then move around. So take those little pelvic tilts, or flexing and extending your feet, or rocking side to side in each of these positions. Have about 10 more breaths to just do what feels right for you. The more you lean back also, like I'm doing, the less pressure is going directly down on your pelvic floor. So just keep that in mind. And also, if you feel like you're kind of hanging out in midair, put something behind you, like blocks or bolster, that you can prop your hands up onto. One more big breath. Good, and then we're gonna switch sides. So roll onto your right hip, bring the ball just on the inside of your left sit bone into that fleshy muscle part. Start soft, start with a lot of weight through your arms. One side might feel different than the other. So first just kind of hang out in the middle and feel what you feel here. We're taking calm, full breaths and especially trying to send the air down to your pelvic floor. Okay, from here, start to point and flex your toes. And then rock your pelvis forward and backwards, spilling forward through your hip bones. And then tugging your tailbone between your thighs. Good, now rock left and right, left and right. Okay, shift your body back so that the ball is kind of at the front part of your pelvic floor. Breathe here either in stillness or you can kind of explore around with those wiggles and movements. And then shift your hips forward so the ball moves to the back part of your pelvic floor, more towards your bottom. Let something release and let go. Come back through center, or if any of those other positions felt like you wanted to stick around, please do that. But we have about 10 more breaths to find what you need. Notice if you're clenching your butt cheeks, let them go. Maybe you sink a little more weight down into your pelvis and less in your arms. Good, release. All right, we don't need our small ball anymore, I don't think, so you can toss that aside. And let's find our bolster or pillow if you have one. We're gonna come to a 90-90 sit. So let's bring our right shin in front of us, parallel to the edge of the mat or wherever you are. And our left leg is going to sweep back behind us, resting your inner thigh on top of that bolster. So ankles, knees, and hips are all bent at 90 degrees. And then we're gonna shift our weight over into our right arm. Scoot your butt towards the center so that you're really kind of lined up with the bolster. And again, this is a good place to breathe into the pelvic floor. And we're gonna find a hip and rib and head alignment, but we're just gonna tilt it to the right. So I don't want to see a ton of rounding or arching. We're gonna keep a nice alignment from our belly button to our sternum to our chin as we breathe here. And the breath is going out through the lungs, the ribs, the back body, down into the pelvic floor. If this feels really open and easy for you, you could kind of prop up onto your fingertips instead of your palm, stacking more towards an upright position. Your postural muscles are engaged here, pulling shoulders back gently, pulling the back of your ponytail back gently. Big breaths into the ribs, into the back body. Release whatever grasping you're doing of your left leg. Good. Now walk your right arm even further out to the right, and we're going to take this lovely side body stretch. So let your right ribs slide down towards the earth. You can place your left hand on the underside of your ribs to give that tactile feedback that you want to breathe into that area, or you could wrap your left arm behind to the back of your sports bra. Remember, pressure goes to the area of least resistance, so we're trying to maintain as much expansiveness through the whole container of our body instead of just having the breath force out through the center line or through the pelvic floor. One more inhale. Good. Exhale. Come back through center and we'll switch it out. So the left shin is parallel to the edge of your mat, and then right leg sweeps back behind you so the inner thigh is resting on your bolster. Shimmy your groin into the bolster and find that 90-degree bend of both legs. And from here, we plant our left palm down and we find that nice rib, hip, head alignment. Just tilt it on its side a little bit. So first here, we're breathing down into the pelvic floor, and that bolster is a nice piece of feedback. So feel if you can find that gentle expansion into the bolster with the inhale. We're not exhaling, blowing out, just a gentle expansion on the inhale. Roll your shoulders back. And if that feels really easy and open, you could come more to an upright position and prop up onto your fingertips or put your hand onto a block. Continuing to keep an eye that we're not rounding and hunching or excessively arching through the low back. This is also a nice stretch for the bottom leg, outer hip and QL. You might feel it differently in your body. Good, now walk your left hand all the way out to the left side, and this is where we kind of chill out. Let our left rib cage slide down towards the earth. You can rest your ear to your shoulder. And then right hand either comes below left ribs or wraps around the back body for the back of the sports bra, just encouraging you to send your breath into these areas that get a little bit less attention. Just a few more cycles here. Biggest inhale yet. Good, exhale, come through center. We are going to release our bolster and block. We don't need them right now. You will need your kind of bigger kids ball, size ball. And we're gonna move on to our core exercise. So come to a quadruped or a tabletop, stacking shoulders over wrists and hips over knees. And we're gonna place the ball underneath our right shin. So from here, take a look down. Make sure we're not really dumping and pooching down through the lower belly. We want that hug of the core in from the lower part, wrapping up like a corset to the upper part. This is what we've been working on for several weeks, so continue to find it even as you grow a little bit bigger. So spend a few breaths pushing the ground away, stretching the back of your neck long. And then from here, we are going to extend our right leg back. So it's rolling along the shin. The ball is rolling along the shin. I like to inhale when I lengthen and then exhale as I draw my right knee in towards my body. The rest of my spine is staying nice and stable. So kind of like our bird dog movement. We're not shifting excessively over into the left hip. Keep everything nice and stacked. Inhale to extend. Exhale, draw your right knee in towards your chest. Now, if this is super easy, make it harder by tucking your left toes and then hovering your left knee off the mat. We can try a few reps like this. So inhale to extend. Exhale, roll it in. Make sure our rib cage is nice and flat. Our core is hugging in. Maybe you do 2 or 3 and you need to take a break. Totally fine. I'm gonna go back and forth between the two. We're breathing into the back body on our inhales and finding that engagement of the pelvic floor, the lower core wrapping up and sliding up to the upper core. Good, if you're with me, let's try another round with the knee hovering off the mat. Good. Release, shake out your arms before we switch sides. And I'm gonna stay facing this way in case it's helpful for you to see a different angle. But first, just put the ball underneath your ankle or shin and find your tabletop. Pretend you have that glass of water on your back and you don't want it to spill. Before we complicate anything more, see if you can, on an exhale, find that gentle hug, that gentle tightening, as if you're pulling your 2 hip bones in and together. So this is without that contraction, and this is with. As you're ready, press out through your palms, find some length through your spine, and then start rolling the top of the shin along the ball. Inhale to extend. Exhale, pull left knee into chest. Good, we're making sure our right hip isn't dumping over the right side. If you want to make it harder, tuck your right toes, hover your right knee off the mat. Take a big breath into the back of the ribs to prepare. And exhale, lift. Still straightening and bending the left leg. Super strong. Try for one more. Good. Let's lower again. Couple more of the modification. Side waists are staying nice and long and even, so we're not side bending from one side to the other. lot to keep track of. As always, it's helpful if you record yourself just so you can kind of see where you're at. And then let's take our toes if you're ready, and we're gonna do 3 more reps with the right knee lifted. Inhale to extend. Exhale, pull it in. Inhale, extend. Exhale, pull it in. One more time. Good, release. All right, a lot of upper body in that as well. We are gonna move on to our pelvic floor exercise, which is a contraction today. Find whatever seat is comfortable for you. You can sit on your heels, you can sit on a bolster or a chair. You could have a little towel roll or something underneath your pelvic floor, again, if you have trouble connecting with it. But another thing to keep in mind is we don't want to do these contractions without knowing that we can expand and relax and release on an inhale. So that's why we did some of the release work first. And I hope that you're finding that's a common pattern through these classes, that a muscle has to be able to relax in order to properly contract. You don't want to tighten, 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 and keep contracting a tight muscle. Okay, so we balance the two. So find a seat, whatever works for you. Come to stack shoulders over your hips. And we're gonna do elevator kegels. So in normal resting tone, your pelvic floor is at ground level. We're not trying to breathe down into it. We're not trying to lift and contract it. We're just hanging out here. That's our exhale, resting ground level. Okay, on an inhale, a natural inhale, we let our pelvic floor descend a little bit to the basement level. So it's a little gentle pressure down. It shouldn't be an anxiety-inducing, I feel a ton of bearing down pressure. That would be like a Valsalva, like a push holding your breath, and that is known as blowing out the basement windows. So we don't want that. We're just ground floor on the exhale. Inhale, descending to the basement, gently. Exhale, don't purposely contract, we're just coming back to ground floor. Now we can go through floors 2, 3, 4, 5 as well. And that is when we're really trying to engage these muscles. So we talked about this in one of the first classes, but you have the superficial muscles of your pelvic floor, which surround the openings and close the holes. So pretending you had to hold in gas, or the nodding of the clitoris, the bringing together the sides of your vagina, a bunch of different cues. Just find what works for you to connect to that muscle. So that's gonna be our first and second, or second and third floor. Okay, so we inhale to basement. Exhale, we're just gonna think about gently closing those openings, bringing us kind of to the second and third level. Inhale to the basement. Exhale, gently close those openings. Good, now the next levels, 3, 4, 5, are the really deep contractions of the pelvic floor. And this is more, I have a bunch of things in here, but the kind of the sling, the inner internal muscles. And this is what is contracted when you think about not only closing the openings, but lifting everything up and in. So pulling everything up and in, getting that deep contraction. So inhale to the basement floor. Exhale, close the openings, and then bring everything together and lift it up into your body on an exhale. Core gets involved too here. Inhale to basement. Exhale, close the openings, and then pull the openings in towards each other and up into your body. Good, let's do a few more rounds on your own. You can close your eyes if that helps you focus. Keep doing this if this is working for you. I'm gonna add a challenge if you'd like. We are going to try to hold that upper level contraction through an additional breath, okay? So inhale to basement. Exhale, full deep pelvic floor contraction. Hold that. Take a breath in. Take a breath out, hold. Breathe in, hold one more moment. Exhale one more moment. And then on your next breath in, you can relax. And follow it with a couple good inhales. Since we held that contraction, we don't want to maintain any tension for too long. Inhale to basement level. Exhale, close the openings. Pull everything up and in. Hold that brace as you inhale. And exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, let it go. Couple of normal breaths. Don't even think about contracting the pelvic floor. Just add our resting tone here, and we'll do that one more time. Holding at the top of the elevator. So inhale to basement. Exhale, close the openings. Lift everything up and in. Keep that contraction, 2 breaths. On your final inhale, release. Good. All right, practice with that. Also practice if you can find each level slowly with control and release each level slowly with control. So definitely come back to that one. And we're gonna move into our hip pelvis muscle exercise. This is where a block would come in handy. If you don't have a block, you could use a bolster. And we're gonna do a modified pigeon stretch. So probably you know pigeon from yoga, this guy. But we're gonna do a little bit different. We're gonna bring the block to the middle of our space, and we're actually gonna put our knee onto the block. Normally we would put the block underneath our hip. I hope you can see me. Okay, so right knee comes to the center, and we're gonna turn our foot in so that we're in a little bit of external rotation. All right, our hands are on the floor as brakes and gas pedals, as well as our left leg. So what we're trying to do is get a nice posterior glide of our femur, our leg bone, back into the socket. Okay, sometimes we live in this land where we shove our femurs forward into the front of the pelvis, and we're gonna glide them back now. This also helps to stretch the glutes and the external rotators. Okay, so as you get comfortable, you can start to push your knee down and feel that stretch into the right back pocket. So we're gliding our whole leg bone back. You might need to bend your elbows or adjust as needed. Keep your right hip kind of stacked over your right knee. And what you also might feel here is as you glide that right leg back, your left hip might sink down a little bit, and that's totally fine. So instead of the pelvis being even, as our right leg moves posteriorly, maybe your left hip kind of slides down. Find a good spot and breathe there. Let it feel good into that back pocket area. As always, freedom to wiggle around. And then we're gonna move with our breath from that stretch to a contraction. So similar to those standing exercises we did several weeks ago, where we're letting our pelvis drop down and then using our external rotators to stack it open, that's what we're gonna do in this position. So on an inhale, we let our left hip sink down and our right femur slide back. On an exhale, push your right knee and shin into the block and engage those muscles on the outside of your right hip to peel left hip open. You might come onto left fingertips. Good. Inhale to stretch it back, lengthen through the back pocket. Left hip sinks. Exhale, push your right knee down, open up to the left. So outer right glutes are really working here. Inhale to release. Left hip slides down. Exhale, push down through your right knee, come onto your left fingertips or lift them up as your left knee stacks open. on top of right. Good, let's do 3 more. My butt is sore today, so these are burning a lot. 2 more with your breath. All right, good work. Give your butt a little massage if you need. And then we're gonna switch it out. So pigeon modified with the left knee onto that elevated surface. Obviously, it's more pressure if the block is harder, but use what you have. And then we're swiveling our left foot in so that our left hip comes into external rotation. Our hands and our right leg are our brakes and gas pedals to kind of control where our weight goes. But first, let's stack our left hip over our knee and then let that femur slide back into your left pocket and maybe your right hip dips down. And as you open more, maybe you need to bend into your elbows to bring your body lower and your femur higher. Good stretch for 3 more breaths. Good, and now we're gonna move into those contractions. So on an inhale, we let our left femur slide back and our right hip dip forward. On an exhale, we push our left knee and shin into the block. Use these muscles on the outside of our left hip. Come onto right fingertips and stack right hip on top of left. Inhale to drop down, find your stretch. Exhale, push left knee down. Use those muscles on the hips. Stack right hip open. Inhale, find your pigeon with the posterior glide. Exhale to contract. Good, 3 more on your own with your breath. Some of these exercises might seem silly, but I promise we're keeping your hips and pelvis in a nice, balanced, healthy shape. With a lot of movements that you probably have never done before, because we tend to kind of live more 1 or 2 dimensionally. Good, release when you're done. So it's good to feel new things. All right, massage your left butt if you need, and then we'll move on to our last exercise, which is our standing, more functional one, and come to a wall. Move your mat back if you need. Our right leg is gonna be down on the earth. And then our left leg, left foot is going to be planted on the wall behind us. We're coming into a single leg hip hinge, okay? Bend left knee, stamp your left foot back. Find that weight through the right big toe, pinky toe, and heel. And then find your hinge, sending your glutes back, reaching your chest forward. Slight bend in the right knee. Don't need to keep the leg totally straight. You might need to step your right foot forward or back, just depending on the length of your leg bones. Okay, inhale to find your hinge, and exhale to stand. Good, hands on your hips to make sure you're staying nice and even. So for this one, we don't want the dipping of one hip down. So hip points are facing forwards like headlights. And then we're keeping a nice, pretty even distance between our inner thighs, not letting them come together. So maybe 1 inch or 2. Good. Grounding down even weight through all sides of your right foot. We're aiming for about 8 reps. And as you finish those, maybe do 1 or 2 more. And then we're gonna switch it to the other side. Shake out your right leg if you need, and then find your weight in that tripod shape of your left foot, kind of creating an arch shape by pulling your ball of your left big toe back instead of collapsing through the arch or rolling onto the outer edge. All right, bend your right knee, place your foot on the wall. Pelvis is forward and stable, and then we inhale. Micro bend in the left knee, send your weight back into your glutes, hinge forward, exhale to stand. On your exhale, feel free to add that pelvic floor and lower core contraction. Adjust your feet if you need. Pretty much all your weight is in your left foot. Your right leg is there for a little bit of balance and a little bit of feedback. Inhale to hinge forward. Exhale to stand. Do 2 or 3 more. Good, finish out wherever you are. And then last but not least, we're gonna do something similar but with the ball, your bigger ball. And we're gonna do this sideways. So let's do face so that your left leg is backed up against the wall. And we're gonna put the ball between our left outer thigh and the wall and hold it there. Okay, bend your left knee. So now we're pushing out with the left leg and kind of with the right leg, creating that nice stable shape. And then we're gonna hinge into the right leg. Exhale to stand and straighten. Equal length between your ribs and your hip bones the whole time so that we're not rounding or arching to the low back. Inhale, we find our hinge, sitting back into the glutes. Push out through your left outer thigh. Exhale to stand. Good, inhale, hinge back. Lots of stuff going on here. Exhale, stand. Keeping that right leg actively pushing out too so that our right knee doesn't collapse in. Let's aim for 8, so I think we have about 4 more. If this is too much, put your left toes down as a kickstand. That is a great option as well. My hips are going to be sore tomorrow in a good way. Good, finish up. No rush. Pause the video if you need. And then we're on to our very last thing, which is the other side. All right, so the ball comes to the right outer leg between there and the wall. You can kickstand your right toes or you can lift your whole right foot off the mat. Okay, so find that pushing out through the left blade edge, pinky edge of the foot and through the right knee. And then we inhale. I like to put thumbs on ribs and hips, again, to keep that equidistant. So we inhale to hinge back. Move the ball if you need. Exhale to stand and straighten. Definitely a balance exercise too. Inhale, sit back into your glutes. Slight bend in the left knee. Exhale to stand. Inhale, chest forward. Exhale, find that contraction of your core and pelvic floor from the bottom up. Let's do about 3 or 4 more. Finish out. Amazing, strong work. Woo! Shake out your legs if you need. You can always follow up with maybe some gentle foam rolling of your outer hips if you want. But I think that was enough for one day. Oh, feels good to sit and stretch. I hope you like this class. I'm proud of you for sticking through these things. They're so good for you, even though it's not a lot of, doesn't seem like it's a lot of bang for your buck. I hope you're finding some benefit here. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time.